In 1978, 5 men from Yuba County, California vanished in the wilderness. What exactly happened remains a tale of confusion and fear, as all 5 friends turned up missing or dead. The mystery unfolds with inexplicable events and unsettling discoveries. 24-year-old Jack Hewitt, 29-year-old Bill Sterling, 30-year-old Jack Madruga, 32-year-old Theodore Wire, and 25-year-old Gary Mathias all dealt with mild disabilities. However, they were independent enough to spend time on their own. They lived with their families and they were affectionately referred to as the boys. They all played basketball at the Yuba City Vocational Rehabilitation Center, and they were looking forward to participating in a Special Olympics tournament in Sacramento. The day before that tournament, Jack Madruga drove 50 miles after picking up the other 4 to California State University to watch the team play against UC Davis. After the game, they stopped at a local convenience store to buy snacks. This would be the last confirmed sighting of them alive. When they never made it to their homes, Ted and Bill's mothers knew something must have happened. In the morning, they contacted the rest of the group's parents to discover that none of the boys had come home. After waiting the whole day, hoping the men would show up, the parents finally contacted the local police. All of the parents were certain that some sort of accident had happened. Luckily, the police took the situation seriously, and so the search began. The local law enforcement knew the route the men were expected to take back home, as well as Jack Madruga's beloved 1969 Mercury Montego. On February 28, 1978, 3 days after the incident, the abandoned 1969 Mercury Montego was found on a mountain road near Oroville. The car was away from the boys' homes, but also far off their intended route back home. The car was found stuck in the snow on a rough dirt trail. It seemed as if they had abandoned it, even though it was undamaged and could have been removed from the snowbank easily. As none of the men were known to be familiar with the area, no one knew why they would have abandoned the car. Soon, 55-year-old Joseph Shones came forward as an eyewitness. According to him, on the night the boys were last seen, he had been in the area planning out a ski trip. When his car became stuck in the snow, he began to experience a mild heart attack, so he spent the night in the car. During the night, he saw headlights and a group of men and a woman with a baby walking away from the car. He said he called for help, but the group ignored him. The next morning, he walked down the mountain, and that's when he said he passed by Madruga's empty car. On March 3, 1978, another possible witness came forward. He claimed to have seen the men in front of Mary's County store in Brownsville the day after they were due home, around 2 p.m. He said that 2 of the men were in a red vehicle similar to the one that Joseph Shones mentioned. On June 4, 1978, motorcyclists came across a Forest Service trailer in the woods, 20 miles from where Madruga's car had been discovered. When they opened the trailer, they discovered the body of Ted Wire on the bed, wrapped in sheets. His body was skinny, and his feet were severely frostbitten. The length of his beard suggested that he'd been alive for 2 to 3 months after disappearing. Oddly, it seemed that Wire hadn't opened a locker in the shed that contained food, nor had he used the matches and fuel to keep the trailer warm. Also, along with his items, a gold watch was found, which according to the families, did not belong to any of the young men. The next day, investigators found the remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling in the woods several miles away. It was unclear if the men had ever reached the trailer. Shortly after, Jackie Hewitt's shoes and spine were discovered just 2 miles from the trailer, while his skull was located 100 yards away. To this day, Mathias's body has never been found. However, his sneakers were discovered in the trailer, suggesting that he'd been inside at some point. The men's families had countless questions about the men's death. How did they get there? Why had they left the car? And there was one big question that dominated them all. Where was Gary Mathias? Adding to the mystery, the police claimed that Ted would have been unable to cover himself in the sheets. So who was in the cabin with him? And why did they not turn on the heat? What about the gold watch they found with him? Who did this belong to? Had Ted taken it before his disappearance? Or had an unknown person been there at the cabin? During the investigation, detectives couldn't find evidence that a woman and a baby were ever on the mountain road the night the men disappeared. Some wondered if foul play was involved in this mystery, and if this group was specifically targeted due to their disabilities. To this day, the mystery of the Yuba County Five remains unsolved, which leaves many people frustrated and wondering what really happened that night.